Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Thursday edition of All Access AM. I'm Billy Embody, hoping that the camera comes into focus here a little bit, but we are jam-packed with things to talk about on All Access AM. Excited to have you guys with us to kick off your Thursday, wherever you're at, listening coast to coast in ACC country. Thanks for joining us. This is All Access AM. We're 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time, usually just getting off to school with the little one and getting back just in time for a little 5-minute late start here, but we'll go past 8 o'clock here, breaking down week 13 in the ACC, what it means for everybody across the country as some huge games are lined up as far as the ACC championship race goes. We'll also talk about James Franklin getting introduced at Virginia Tech yesterday. I've got some recruiting takeaways on that. I've got some takeaways on his press conference and what he is getting himself into there in Blacksburg as he looks to rebuild that program. And as he put it, put it back to where it was under the likes of Frank Beamer there and the national prominence that the Hokies have enjoyed throughout their time. So we appreciate you guys listening. We are so thankful for you guys as Thanksgiving approaches. We're a week away from Thanksgiving, already kind of thinking about that. I think we'll go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, or maybe we'll do Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, and then go with a kind of pre-recorded Friday show during the holiday for you guys. But we appreciate folks like Robert Webb being in here. Thanks for listening and watching on the channel. And, of course, Pony Up 214 chiming in there as well. Happy Thursday to you guys, and appreciate you guys being here. The Thursday show is presented by our friends at Horn Legend, hornlegend.com. I am wearing one of their pullovers right now, just a really, really comfortable feeling pullover that, you can wear. It's supposed to be about 75 here in Dallas today. I can wear it. It breathes. I'm a sweater. So for me, whenever I'm able to put on a quarter zip and wear it when it's 75 degrees, that tells me it breathes and breathes well. Make sure you grab yours today with code PONY for free shipping. We appreciate Horn Legend for hooking us up with all the good stuff here. And want to get another special shout out of the way to our friends at Sportsmo, sportsmo.org. Sportsmo.org. They are changing the game when it comes to the space of how to maybe bet a little bit more responsibly on your favorite teams or on other teams. You can do that as well. But the way to do it is that it is micro donations to your school. So you can kind of gamify it with your friends, talk about what you're betting on in the game. But guess what? You're going to lose the money anyway, but it's going to your favorite football program or basketball program or other sport in the school because it's going to the school's general NIL fund for student athletes. So that's the great thing about Sportsmo and what they're doing is that you can learn more about it and kind of see if it fits you. But if you're maybe somebody who gambles a little bit, maybe you want to say, okay, I'm going to scale back the gambling. I'm just going to accept that I'm going to lose maybe $50 a game, but I'm going to do it betting on how the Hokies do in touchdowns or in sacks or whatever your ACC team is. You can do it with our friends at Sportsmo. So learn more here in this short video and download the Sportsmo app today.
Sportsmo lets you make a more direct impact on the game because it lets you, the fans, fund your favorite college football teams in a straightforward way. In a you win and I'll give way. In a I need you to show me your running game is alive and then I'll donate way. These real-time tax-deductible microfunds lead to impact your team can feel. Every cent you send mixes with every drop of sweat they put in. Form your squad. Boost your friends when a play comes through. A new way to follow the game. And cha-ching, your favorite team. So what do you say, difference makers? Ready to power the play? Sportsmo. Download today. Let's smo.
All right. Appreciate Sportsmo for all they do for us here at All Access AM. Got a question in the chat right away from Pony Up 214. Appreciate it. Can you talk about how SMU can get to the ACC championship game? Absolutely. So the easiest way, and SMU tweeted this out, is they need one of Georgia Tech, or Virginia to lose over this weekend between Georgia Tech and Pitt, or Virginia Tech, Virginia next weekend. So then SMU needs to win out, take care of business, and that would put them in the ACC championship game. If SMU were to lose a conference game over these next 2 weeks, one of them, only one, that would complicate things. You would need Georgia Tech to lose this weekend. You would need, I believe you need Georgia Tech to, it really gets complicated. The main thing is win out for SMU. I don't even want to go down the road of all the things that happen if SMU loses, but I can tell you it gets incredibly complicated for the Mustangs to get that done, and that's just not something you want to see as a whole. So that is the long story short. I think for me, thinking about it, somebody who covers SMU, they need to win out because, one, if they lose another game, then you're not going to go to the college football playoff in all likelihood to begin with. SMU's on the outside looking into the college football playoff rankings. They're just on the outside of the AP and the coaches poll. So if they lose a game, they'll drop back. They'll stay out of that top 25. It would clear the path potentially for that, double up of group of 6 teams or whatever we're calling it now to make it into the college football playoff. That is, if SMU were to lose a game and still make it to the ACC championship, be a 4-loss team going to Charlotte. It's complicated, but that's the reality of it. It would really, really muddle things for the ACC if SMU were to lose one of the next 2 games, still make it to the ACC championship, and then win it. That would be obviously great for SMU. You want to win the championship, but also just a whole bunch of complicated mess for a conference that really needs this weekend's teams that are in action, that are in this championship race picture, to step to the plate and be competitive and win the games that they need to. When we'll break down this whole Week 13 slate, which begins Florida State at NC State Friday night, 7 p.m. Central on ESPN. I'm looking forward to watching that one and seeing that one unfold. It has no bearing on the ACC championship race, but it's 2 fairly decent-sized brands there in the league getting together for a big matchup. We'll break that down. But the teams in contention for a trip to Charlotte remain number 16, Georgia Tech at 6-1 in league play, 19, Virginia at 6-1 in league play. SMU sits at 5-1 in league play. Remember, they play Louisville and Cal the next 2 weeks. Georgia Tech finishes up its ACC slate this weekend with Pitt, who is also in the mix, of course, at 5-1. And the next week, you've got Virginia Tech facing Virginia. And this week, the Hoos are off. Number 13, Miami, the highest ranked team in the college football playoff ranking, sits at 4-2, still alive in the race. And Duke, sitting at 4-2, also still alive in the ACC race. Duke gets a chance to take on North Carolina, and then they finish up, I believe, with Wake Forest next week. So not out of the realm of possibility that Duke could finish 6-2 in league play there with their 2 games ahead. The ACC has, I think, a situation where I want to sidebar here. They need to find a way to move to 9 games next year. And they have to make that a priority, and they have to make the math. And there might be this one season of weirdness as maybe some of the schedules get, unpacked and unfolded, and figure out how these programs have to get to 9 games. But one more conference game this year for where the league is in this conference championship race would have done wonders for these programs trying to figure out, 1, if they're going to Charlotte, and 2, it would give them usually another maybe resume boosting opportunity playing that 9-game schedule. I mean, we've seen Duke's schedule, for example. They didn't end up taking care of business against an Illinois, against a Tulane, and then against a UConn. That stinks. That's out of conference opportunities that they weren't able to put together. Do they schedule like that if they're playing a 9th ACC conference game? Probably not. But those are the type of teams that you'd rather it be talked about as a conference game versus seeing a Duke team go 0-3 against FBS teams in their non-conference. I'm pretty sure they played an FCS their season opener. If I remember correctly, it didn't exactly go well for a minute until they took over. So I'll check their schedule. Yeah, they opened against Elon. I think they were tied at half. They were tied at half. Good memory all the way back to week 1, Billy. The league has to find ways to create more drama around the race, but also finding ways to boost the resumes and boost that ability to talk about the league and how competitive it is and get the clarity. It's just a different feeling when you're looking at the SEC, for example, and you can't really yet compare the two leagues as far as, in my opinion at least, that upper echelon top 4, right? But you know what you have generally with the clarity that the SEC is providing this year because they're at that 9-game schedule with 2 weeks to go. Now, some of these will certainly have, I think, the directional schools last week or this week in the SEC, which you don't see as much of in the ACC outside of Clemson playing Furman this weekend. Furman this weekend. But you have these races that are still kind of hinging on some of these games, like Oklahoma, Mizzou this weekend. Big game. If the Sooners were to lose, that would obviously be kind of a really difficult loss for them to stomach. Ole Miss is off this weekend. They've got Mississippi State next weekend, Alabama, Auburn in the Iron Bowl, things like that can still impact the race in the SEC. But for the ACC, that is the biggest priority, I think, for Jim Phillips, and what they need to do moving forward is get to that 9-game schedule. It would help the league get clarity on their conference championship race quicker. It would maybe not have some of these storylines that are able to pop up, like if Duke had one more, I think, winning record ACC team on its slate, they're probably not in the conference championship race this weekend. If you popped in that UConn game for some other team like a Miami or something like that, you're looking at a completely different scenario there, with Duke kind of being already knocked out, Miami one step closer to getting there. Again, if you think of that in the right manner when it comes to Miami just straight up beating Duke on paper. So lots of things going on with this championship race. Here is the final piece here, and this is for the ACC fans listening out there, coast to coast. We appreciate you guys. Please hit that subscribe button, and thank you so much to Pony Up 214 for starting this conversation off with a little $10 super sticker. I appreciate that. I appreciate you for listening. Thanks so much for doing that and starting off my day really, really well. But the race for Charlotte, you have a couple of teams here, one in particular that can I think really cement themselves, obviously, in Charlotte. That'd be Georgia Tech. Pitt can take a huge step in that direction, but they still need help over the next couple of weeks. But Georgia Tech, with a win over Pitt, can clinch its spot in Charlotte this weekend. I think that would be nice for clarity when it comes to the league. I think that would be nice for the league as a whole to have that Georgia Tech team riding into that Georgia game as a team that has a spot in its conference championship game with one loss. But it wouldn't necessarily be good for those SMU fans out there, of course, listening. We appreciate you guys as well. But Virginia, idle this week on a bye. In my opinion, here, if you're talking about the ACC and what's best for the ACC, Georgia Tech beating Pitt would be best, and then Virginia Tech taking care of business against Virginia would probably be best. I think SMU is a little bit more equipped than Virginia to make a move in the college football playoff if they were to get to Charlotte and win. Georgia Tech obviously has played at a pretty high level offensively, in particular, over the course of the entire year. The defense is really struggling right now, but Haynes King, you kind of can't count him out in any fight. Chandler Morris has played at a high level, but Virginia's just overall body of work suggests, to me at least, that when you're looking at what is best for the ACC, you need the best rosters to go to the college football playoff. And how do you do that? You need Miami winning out, number one, which would involve Miami taking care of business against Virginia Tech on the road, and then Pitt next week. That would put Miami as a 2-loss team They'd be probably still the highest ranked ACC team. I don't know if the highest, if like Georgia Tech, if they won the ACC championship, would jump Miami with a win in Charlotte over a ranked team like maybe Virginia or an SMU. But to pony up 214's question here, if the season ended today, who would be in the ACC championship game? It'd be Georgia Tech, Virginia. So that's where, for you, SMU needs a lot of help. In a sense, there's two games really that can control SMU's destiny if the Mustangs win out. That is Georgia Tech this weekend against Pitt. That's at home for Georgia Tech. So big one there. And then, of course, next week, Virginia Tech at Virginia, and getting a chance to beat the Hokies in their rivalry game. If Virginia wins that one and Georgia Tech wins, that's your ACC championship. There's not much drama around it, but that does set up for next week to be fun, filled with drama. If SMU could take care of business, if Miami beats Virginia Tech, and of course, if Duke beats North Carolina, that would keep all those teams kind of in the race, I believe. So, and looking at the notes here from the ACC, here's the final piece. Virginia can clinch its spot only if a trio of results fall this way this weekend. Georgia Tech would need to defeat Pitt, Louisville would need to defeat SMU, and North Carolina, big one here, would need to defeat Duke. Even in the event of a Virginia loss in week 14, the Cavs would be locked into no worse than a 6-2 record, creating a potential 3-team tie with SMU and the winner of Miami Pitt. Virginia would then hold the tiebreaker advantage in that scenario thanks to a better winning percentage against common opponents, which would involve Louisville and Stanford, giving the Cavaliers the edge over SMU, Pitt, and Miami, which are each 1-1, which SMU hasn't played Louisville just yet, so I don't know why SMU is included in there. Those are the notes from the ACC, so I don't know what to tell you guys there, but entering this weekend, it'd be Georgia Tech, Virginia. Let's get to our Week 13 breakdown here of this ACC slate. I want to start off with NC State hosting Florida State, a kind of house of horrors for a lot of teams this year. Going into this one, Florida State, coming off of a game where they took it to Virginia Tech, they were able to get that one done. According to our friends at BetMGM, NC State 4.5-point dogs at home. They would be, let's say 7.5-point dogs on a neutral site. And this one was at Florida State, it'd be a 10.5-point spread. So really interesting there to see Florida State kind of getting that credit for a place that for a lot of teams this year has been such a struggle to get wins at. You see what has happened to Georgia Tech, when you see what happened to Virginia, things like that. So credit to NC State for obviously being the giant killer, but it's also kind of screwing things up in a sense for the ACC when they do things like that and playing the way they are. But I think for this one, I'm very torn on how to pick this game. I almost lean more towards, and remember, NC State obviously coming off of that Georgia Tech win a couple weeks ago, then goes down to Miami and gets boat raced. NC State is above FSU in my power rankings that I shared on the show on Wednesday's show. I think they get this one done. I think they beat Florida State. Now, here's the funny thing. I could completely see Florida State beating Florida next week. That Florida team, who knows kind of where their head is at each and every game. They've come out and given Ole Miss a battle. They've come out and given Georgia a battle. That's a really good roster. It would be pretty wild if Mike Norvell got that win. But I think NC State at home Friday night, that's the team I'm going to go with here to cover if I was picking this game. And they, I think with CJ Bailey, are going to have an ability to kind of keep pace with whatever Tommy Castellanos puts out there for Florida State. And they'll take this one and get the win. But Pony Up 214 makes another point. Check in reality. Virginia lost 2 conference games. It'd be nice if both of them actually counted. So that is the weird thing about that loss earlier in the season for Virginia. It doesn't count towards the conference race because of kind of a scheduling snafu with all of the changes around college football. So really interesting stuff there. That happens rarely, but in this case, it's severely impacting this ACC championship race as it goes into the weekend. If Virginia had that second loss, I believe it'd be SMU and Georgia Tech sitting there in the ACC driver's seat. So really unique situation there, and kind of unique that they're sitting at home. They kind of get this late bye. They get that opportunity to prepare for a Virginia Tech team that, is going to go out and face Miami this weekend at home. And then they're going to have James Franklin on the sideline. We'll get to that in just a minute. But also you look at Virginia Tech, and I think the next 2 weeks are really going to tell James Franklin a lot about how some of these guys are going to fit or not fit into his puzzle going forward. He had an outstanding press conference. We'll talk about that on the back half of the show. But the ability for them to go out and show James Franklin as he's on the sideline, as he's able to watch, is something that you can't kind of quantify, I feel like, for some of these guys. I mean, you're kind of playing for you're playing for your next rev share agreement. You're playing for your next coach. You're playing for your next maybe transfer destination. If you already know, hey, this hasn't really worked out, I want to go maybe closer to home. I want to drop down a level. I want to go somewhere else. I knew James Franklin from recruiting. Maybe he wasn't my cup of tea, blah, blah, blah. You can see all of those things for these Virginia Tech players, whereas Miami, still fighting for their college football playoff life, has a lot to play for as well. That is a really interesting game at 11 a.m. on ESPN tomorrow, or on Saturday. But final thought on Florida State at NC State has no impact on the ACC championship race. I'm intrigued to see how NC State, how explosive that offense looks, kind of bouncing back off of that Miami game. And Dave Dorian, I mean, I wonder if they make a change. It just seems so stale. If they show up and are non-competitive, I mean, there are some NC State fans that are just done with him. It's obvious. It's a long run. It's a long time to be there. And he just hasn't, I think, with the roster that they have, obviously broken through and done anything really special. But at the same time, it is such a competitive coaching cycle. I think, and I was talking with somebody yesterday about this on the Arkansas coaching front. And Arkansas, obviously, I think would have loved to have had James Franklin. I don't cover them. It seems like a lot of their insiders were kind of drumming up that he would be on the list. He would be an option. There's also some other names that they're waiting on because they're involved with jobs like Auburn, LSU, potentially Ole Miss, Florida, all of those things and all of those other dominoes that could impact Arkansas. So nobody's going to be introduced and rushed to the podium at Arkansas before Thanksgiving. I don't see it happening. I think their search might very well play out into December. But I said to this person, I said, Arkansas is at the point where either one, maybe you hire Bobby Petrino, let him go to work, dump a bunch of money into hiring a big name DC, give them some leeway, give them an opportunity to build this thing back up and give it a go. Because look, Sam Pittman, Arkansas through and through, it did not work. There wasn't enough, I think, high-level investment in the program. Hunter Yurchek, who's the College Football Playoff Committee chair now, as well as running a coaching search, which go figure on that stuff. But you have somebody who admitted earlier this year that the Arkansas job doesn't have the resources. I would argue that NC State is another program that is probably better positioned to be successful in its particular league than Arkansas. I don't think that's a crazy take. So if you're NC State, do you go out there and say, hey, coach, thanks so much. We appreciate all you've done here in the ACC at NC State, but we're gonna try something different in this critical period of the college football playoff and all of the things that are coming down the pipeline with college football. Do you go and hire a well-respected coordinator? Do you try to pluck Glenn Schumann out of Georgia? Do you try to pluck somebody else from across the country that maybe would fit, maybe would be a better fit for today's day and age of college football? Do you dump money into building out your scouting department and your general manager position? Do you do all of those things and say, we're going to try something different here? Because what we do know is we're very kind of stable-ish, but you're also not at the point of the program in a good spot as well. I mean, sitting at 5-5, they could make a bowl if they get a win in one of these next two games, Florida State, UNC. But if they don't, then that's not enough. That's not enough there for NC State. They have too much talent in that area, in that pocket they can recruit. They have, I think, a great stadium and an atmosphere as well. But, when you have a 500 football team and pretty much hung around there for as long as you have, maybe it is time for a change. So it's not that Dave Dorian is doing so many things wrong and it's cratering, but you need to make a change there, in my opinion. This game against Florida State will tell me a lot as far as how things might go here in the next couple of weeks with Dave Dorian. So big, long sidebar there on coaching searches and NC State's job and the status of Dave Dorian to kind of end the Friday night, November 21st preview of ACC with two teams completely out of the race. So I apologize for that. But I can tell you what, Saturday is jam-packed when you get to the slate of games. There are 8 ACC games on the schedule, 3 in the 11 o'clock window, 3 in the 2:30 to 3:30 range, and then 2 evening matchups for you guys to watch. So a jam-packed day of ACC football Saturday. Really excited about getting to enjoy some of that. I love the fact that, covering SMU, in a sense, the 11 a.m. game is right there staring everybody in the face. And then we'll see a lot of big games play out in that window with Miami, Virginia Tech. And then, of course, you've got, a couple others later on in the day. But I think for me, you start with this Miami, Virginia Tech game. And to Moore Rudder Wright's point, agreed, Virginia Tech will be ready to go. I'm in that spot where I think Virginia Tech is going to be ready to go. What does that mean? Because they played, I thought, well for a bit against Florida State on the road, and they were, trying to, make things happen. But at the end of the day, they weren't able to get it done. Florida State pulls away. They're 17.5-point underdogs this weekend at home to Miami. 48.5 is the total. I think if I'm kind of reading that right, I would think like a 37-10 type of win is probably what Vegas is thinking for Miami, kind of similar to what Miami's done to all of the bottom feeders in the ACC so far. I guess now I'm still not going to include Louisville in that bottom feeder positioning, even though they've kind of cratered here as of late. But when you look at what Miami has in front of itself, and you're trying not to look ahead to next week against Pitt on the road, it's very important for this team to go out there and fire on all cylinders for the College Football Playoff Committee. And I do wonder what the mindset is at Miami right now with the way the College Football Playoff Committee is treating them, because they're getting the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the College Football Playoff ranking in a sense, but you're also at a spot where they're not giving you the credit to put you up next to Notre Dame either. Like, I think Miami, with their 2 losses, that they kind of have just been moved up to 13. They did that a week ago, kind of a correction. Miami's getting the benefit of the doubt. Now, if they think that they can sleepwalk through Virginia Tech and then get to Pitt, I think they have another thing coming. Again, 17.5-point favorites for Miami. This is an interesting one to pick. I think Virginia Tech, I'm probably going to look really dumb on this one, so everybody can kind of clip this and keep this one filed away, and we'll laugh at it on Monday morning first thing. But Virginia Tech, I think, can keep this close and maybe just cover. Maybe like just by 16. Maybe they find a way to slow down Miami's offense. Maybe they find a way to make it a 28-17 type of game. That would be a hard-fought football game. I could see Miami pulling away late with a touchdown, or I could see Miami doing the other side of that, where they kind of race out to a lead and then Virginia Tech kind of makes it close, similar to what happened against Florida State earlier this year. Could see that happening as well. I do like Miami to win. I think they'll take care of business and keep moving. But the Miami Hurricanes have, I think, enough firepower to go up there. And even if they don't play their best, they'll get a win at Virginia Tech this weekend, 11 a.m. on ESPN. SMU hosting Louisville, 11 a.m. on ESPN2, a huge game for the ACC championship race. SMU was looking at this one probably a couple weeks ago saying, oh man, this is a monster game, night game, maybe for senior day. Since then, Louisville dropping 2 games has really cratered the game slot and the TV channel here. So sorry, Cards, it is on you in this one. But this is still a big matchup. These are still 2 really good rosters and 2 teams that are now in very different places as far as what they're playing for the rest of the year. This is Louisville's final ACC game of the year. They play Kentucky next week. SMU goes on the road at Cal with potentially everything to play for next weekend out there in Berkeley. If SMU can get this win, this is a huge hurdle, a huge moment for the program. And guess what? Pitt at Georgia Tech is that night. So they don't even need to be scoreboard watching or thinking about what happens that night. They need to go out, take care of business. On the flip side, Louisville has to find a way to piece together something to get a win. If you're the Cards and you drop your last 3 ACC games, that is a really nasty taste in your mouth leaving conference play. I without a doubt, I'm going to pick SMU here. I do think it's a game that is, maybe in a spot to get a little closer as I get closer to this game. SMU sitting as 2.5-point favorites at home over Louisville, a Louisville team that's lost 2 straight. Vegas basically saying this would be a Louisville favored game at a neutral site. And I don't blame them because Louisville has a ton of talent. They have a lot at the running back position to handle. This for me is a game where, man, I don't know what to think when it comes to how this game will play out. Will it be a game that we see it be really close because maybe SMU's offense doesn't click? What I think I know going into this one is I think that SMU's defense is going to be able to bottle up Louisville's running attack. SMU's rush defense is among the best in the country right now. They were able to manage Miami's and kind of keep that, run game in check as a whole. And they've done that pretty much throughout conference play, is play really well against the run in particular. And if they do that and they make Miller Moss beat them the way he's kind of been, I think SMU has a chance, if they play well offensively, for this one to maybe get a little ugly. Last 2 losses for Louisville by a combined, I believe, 4 points, maybe 5. But obviously the walk-off, 4 points. The walk-off touchdown, and then, of course, the 1-point loss to Clemson. Do those losses, and does the culture for Louisville hold up under this stress, under this pressure that they've now been put under these last couple of weeks? That's a question I have. SMU, this is another game where they shouldn't be looking ahead. This is not like Wake Forest. This is not comparable. But SMU has a huge game next week against Cal if they beat Louisville. If they don't beat Louisville, they're really backed themselves into a corner. There's no way they're going to Charlotte, in my opinion. That would be quite the debacle for the ACC, number one, if they still somehow ended up there. But there is a lot of football. Crazier things have happened. But SMU has to take it one play at a time. They have to take it one game at a time. They have to do all those cliche things to make it to Charlotte or give themselves an opportunity to go to Charlotte. And that is what they're trying to do. Senior day, SMU unbeaten as November matchups under Rhett Lashley as an ACC team. I think SMU is able to obviously cover this. If it stayed at 2.5, you could take SMU in the points. I don't see it being a 1-point win. I don't see it being a 2-point win. At worst for SMU, maybe a walk-off field goal. But the point is, I think SMU is able to move past this, although this is a scary kind of game for SMU because Louisville is also trying to not only punch back after these last 2 weeks, they're trying to punch back after SMU went in to Louisville last year and won a massive, massive football game on the road last year and were able to control that one kind of from start to finish. I know it got dicey there in the second half, but SMU kind of fell asleep there in that third quarter and allowed Louisville back into it. But they were able to kind of pull away and then close it out. So we'll see how SMU does this weekend against Louisville. But a huge game there, and one that I think for me, SMU is going to take. I see them covering and making it happen for them when it comes to their next game meaning something, and that'll be pretty cool for the Mustangs if they can get it done, because then you go out to Cal, and Cal is a really interesting team to predict, and I have no idea what would happen next weekend out there, but it could be a fun one. Finally, the 11 o'clock game on ACC Network, Wake Forest hosting Delaware. Obviously, Wake, I think, is going to win this one. I don't think we're going to be, holding our hands holding our face in our hands over Wake, blowing it and making the ACC look bad with Delaware. But that wraps up the 11 a.m. games. I do want to say, as a Pony Up 214, appreciate all the commentary in the section. Are any other schools looking at Casey Woods as a head coach? I do think some schools are evaluating him. SMU offensive coordinator Casey Woods. Rhett Lashley calls the plays. I think with where Casey Woods is at in his career, he probably needs to either go the Johnny Brewer route and go call plays somewhere and go. Johnny Brewer is the Duke offensive coordinator, or he's well seasoned when it comes to managing recruiting, managing, a general offense and things like that. And he has SEC ties. I think if you can get him he interviewed for a few lower level jobs, like I think Troy, I think Middle Tennessee, some of these different jobs, kind of in that SEC footprint. Would not shock me if he popped up in maybe one of those. But he is certainly somebody that is being very patient, because obviously there's a great situation going on in Dallas right now too. Do I think the ACC will end up getting only one bid for the CFP? Oh, I think so, because right now you're not even factoring in with the current bracket the ACC champ. It is the highest ranked ACC team right now is Miami, and they're probably not going to play for the conference championship. And in that case, then you'd probably have Miami bumped out of the rankings. But this is where things get a little interesting, is you do have Miami in there in the bracket at least. So how do the rest of the teams find a way to kind of maybe knock each other out in the SEC? Do we see something happen in the Big 12? Do we see some of those things that, aren't really getting talked enough about, where the committee might have to make a move because of, somebody getting a big win or being, knocked out? BYU is sitting as the next team in. So that is something to kind of keep in mind. BYU is ranked 11th. Alabama is sitting at 10. So that would put then Alabama at Oregon. If Alabama were to lose the Iron Bowl, that would certainly knock them out and would move up, let's say, a BYU into the college football playoff. But you also have BYU that has to take care of business too. You have Utah that has to take care of business too. And when you have somebody like Georgia Tech who could win out and go play for a conference championship, and let's say they lose even to Georgia, as an ACC champion, Georgia Tech would be in. They would be in. There's no doubt in my mind. So then, Miami, could they sneak in? That is the question, because they are sitting behind Utah, BYU right now. So if they were to beat Virginia Tech and beat Pitt, that could set them up for maybe another boost. But again, the committee can create its own narrative, because Miami could beat a Pitt team that I think most people think is a good team, even if they lose to Georgia Tech. And they are a good team with regards to what they've done since Mason Heintzel's been the quarterback. But are they good or are they great? We're going to find out about Pitt over the next 2 weeks, and that'll tell us a lot. If they go out and beat Georgia Tech, kind of create some chaos, and then Miami can beat Pitt, that would give the ACC kind of one of the best chances here to maybe get Miami in as an at-large, which again, is going to be one of the biggest storylines of the college football playoff. Appreciate Pony Up 214 really coming through today, man. I appreciate you. We'll do this 5 days a week if this is the type of mornings we're going to have. So thanks for joining us this morning. 15 minutes or so to go in the show, and we haven't even gotten to James Franklin and Virginia Tech. So let's kind of speed through some of these. There's kind of some non-conference games that are certainly of less interest. Notre Dame hosts Syracuse, 2:30 p.m. on NBC. Sorry, Syracuse. I think your sacrificial lamb status this weekend. You just can't move the ball. You can't really do anything. I think Notre Dame is going to really, really flex on the Orange this weekend. 35.5 points. 35.5 points is a spread. I won't do it. I would not do it. But could Syracuse kind of hold Notre Dame in check? I don't know. Too much Jeremiah Love. I could see it being kind of like a 50-10 type of game, but that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points in college football. Then you get at 2:30 Duke at North Carolina. Now this one is interesting. ACC Network. I still feel like North Carolina is playing a little bit better. I know they lost last week to Wake Forest, but the defense, North Carolina's defense, since the Clemson game where they lost 38-10, and schedule can kind of do this as well, but they've allowed, and this is total points by opponent. So I just kind of looking back off the top of my head, I don't know if there was a, defensive touchdown by one of these teams off the offense or things like that. But, and actually I know, so Cal, 21 points, Virginia, 17 points, Syracuse, 20, Syracuse was held to 10 points, Stanford held to 15 points, and then Wake Forest scored 28 on them, which I don't know if that's an indictment on North Carolina's defense as of late, but you have a team here I think that is borderline gelling on defense. Can they create turnovers off Darian Mensah and make this one interesting? That is a big question that I have. And could we see it go UNC's way? Duke favored by 6.5 on the road. I think UNC covers here. I think that's kind of that's where I'm at on this one. So we'll see. That's a really interesting matchup. I would stay away from it. I wouldn't put money on it, but here we are. Clemson hosting Furman, 3:30 p.m. Central on CW Network. Kind of self-explanatory here. I think Clemson rolls. I don't think there's an Elon performance in there for the Tigers. And then let's go the 6:30 game before we'll talk about the 6 o'clock game. 6:30, Cal at Stanford, rivalry game on ACC Network, 6:30 p.m. Central Time out there at Stanford. A really cool rivalry. I think, just kind of storied. I'd love to see both of these programs really kind of elevate, especially I know Stanford's working on it. I know Cal's got kind of a bright future here if they can keep Sagapatelli in the fold during this free agency. Cal already bowl eligible. Stanford going to miss out. Stanford nearing a coaching hire as well. So keep an eye on that as we get closer to Thanksgiving and closer to maybe this time that the decision from Andrew Luck and that leadership could come down for for Stanford to name their new head coach as Frank Reich gets close to wrapping up his interim status. Stanford does play Notre Dame next week too. So poor guys sitting at 3-7 overall, going to miss a bowl game, but they would love to get a win over Cal and really, ruin their season a bit down the stretch here. So that's the 6:30 p.m. Central Time game. The line on that one is definitely, I would say, Cal favored by our friends at BetMGM. Cal 3-point favorites in that matchup. I would say Cal covers on the road. I just think Stanford's probably a little tired, I feel like, but and shout out Los before we get to our last game preview here. Los Altos SM, we need this dub. I assume you're talking about SMU with your Dallas Cowboys gear on. So they do. They need the dub this weekend. And then Pony Up 214. If Pitt wins out, is SMU in the ACC championship? If Pitt wins out and SMU wins out, SMU would still need help from, yes, SMU would be in the ACC championship. SMU's in the ACC championship because Pitt would have beaten Georgia Tech. So SMU needs to win out in those scenarios. More right rudder. Notre Dame would be the 4th ranked team in the ACC as of right now. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I could see it. They actually had to play the full schedule instead of getting to cherry pick some of the best. I mean, this, that's a great point. If that Miami Notre Dame loss was a conference one, they'd be sitting there in quite the interesting position going into this weekend, needing a lot of help. That's one great point there in the chat, that if Notre Dame was an ACC conference team, if they were an ACC team, I wonder what the talking points would be like compared to Miami. I really would be interested to hear that, because when it's put next to them, when it'd be put next to some of the other teams, how would that be viewed as, oh wow, well, Notre Dame needs help, or they need this or that to happen to make it to Charlotte? Oh man, like that must say that they didn't play a good ACC schedule, or they, this or that. I'd be interested to know the talking points. I don't know all of them, of course, because Notre Dame, of course, is not in the actual ACC, but that is a really good point to bring up there as we get into this final debate if Miami wins out over what they're going to do. All right, the main event here, Pitt at Georgia Tech. Huge ACC game. One of these teams is going to be in the race for the ACC championship. One of them is going to be knocked out, I would think. Georgia Tech favored by 2.5 points. So SMU favored by 2.5 over Louisville at home. Georgia Tech favored by 2.5 over Pittsburgh at home. They'd be dogs on a neutral site. Really interesting line here from Vegas. Really interesting line. I think they're committed to the bit when it comes to chaos in the ACC. I think they're committed to the chance that you see these teams really kind of find ways to create and cause chaos in this league, and all of that could go out the window with another poor performance by Mason Heinschel. I think we're past the point with Haynes King of him going down the road of having a poor performance. I don't think that is going to happen by any means in any fashion or world. But you do have a Georgia Tech team that is playing for everything this weekend. You're playing for their right to go to Charlotte. If they win this weekend, they punch their ticket. And I'm torn. Obviously, SMU fans in the chat, a lot of you guys, appreciate you being here on this Thursday morning. You do have this opportunity that if Pitt beats Georgia Tech, it's great for SMU, period, end of story. But will that happen? And I just don't know if Haynes King is going to let that happen. And I don't know if it's some sort of magic that is sprinkled on this Georgia Tech season right now and how they're able to survive. But I think this is going to be a really entertaining game. I could see this one being a 35-38 type of game. I could see it being a blast of a football game to watch. And you can see one of the league's elder statesmen kind of go out in league play, in regular season league play, in Haynes King. And then you're going to see one of the young bright stars of this conference at quarterback step into the spotlight even more and bounce back from his performance against Notre Dame. So as far as my pick for this game, my gut tells me that Georgia Tech is going to win. My head tells me that Pitt is going to overcome the defensive issues that Georgia Tech has and has shown against inferior competition in this league, and they're going to win the game. So that is my dilemma. I lean Georgia Tech. I think there is some magic going on there in Atlanta. And man, as much as they're starting to play with fire defensively and how bad they are, but it is not enough, I think, for them to lose at home in their final regular season ACC game with everything on the line against Pitt. I just don't see Brent Key's team doing that. So And besides, if you want to look at Pitt, they have last year's, first kind of big loss or whatever to a ranked team kind of crater their season. Will it crater the rest of the way for Pitt? I don't know, but they could go 0-3 to end the season, which would be a shame for them. A great run under Mason Heinschel, but I think this game probably goes Georgia Tech's way. I don't know the final score. I think it'll be high scoring though with both of these offenses, but a really, really good game that everybody should tune in at for 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. So fun one there to close out the evening slate of this ACC weekend. Pony Up 214. I am a coffee drinker. Guess what? I am a La La Land cafe drinker. And if you missed it on our show earlier this week, La La Land, the foundation, is now a partner with us. So you guys can support and give donations to La La Land, the foundation, and help with their initiatives. You can help with scholarship. You can help with mentorship. You can do all sorts of different things on that front to support youth transitioning into adulthood. And it is a foundation that I'm really excited to continue our partnership with as it just is getting off the ground. But they have a foundation sponsorship scholarship that gets awarded and helps with tuition, fees, books, and it's for people who are transitioning from the foster care system to adulthood. So you can give your time, you can give money. There are all sorts of different ways to support the La La Land Foundation, but most importantly, it's a movement. So spread the word. LaLaLandFoundation.com. They've got great coffee as well. If you could find one of the La La Land kind cafes, but they that might be the way I need to start my day and go over there, get a little work done. Thanks to you, Pony Up 214, with your super stickers. So love coffee in the morning. I probably drink too much of it. Let's just say that, but really enjoy it. Had a cup this morning already, so I think it'll be a multi-cup day. Thursday is usually a really big get work done day. And on top of that, guys, tell you, I don't know if some of you guys hang your own Christmas lights, but this was my first go at it. Getting up there on the ladder, putting the little thing under the shingle and getting it all Clark Griswold out. I've got about 50 rows across the shingles now. No, I'm kidding, but really have to get that done the rest of the day. So little work, work, and then some housework around here, but definitely going to need the coffee to get through it. So check out our friends at La La Land Foundation and support them during this time of year as well, and help make a difference for somebody's life. All right, 55 minutes into the show, James Franklin introduced at Virginia Tech, and I had a lot to really kind of go down as far as James Franklin and what he said and what his vision is and a lot of the things, but I think I want to take this a little bit of a different way. And I have notes on both. And this for some people is going to be like click off, but recruiting in today's day and age for Virginia Tech is very important to building this thing. This is a program that hiring James Franklin is going to go out and now recruit at a higher level, both in the high school ranks and the transfer portal. They're committed financially, and they're already making waves on the recruiting trail. Go make sure you are locked in with the rivals.com subscription. You can pick your favorite team, whether you're a Virginia Tech fan, whether you're an SMU fan, whether you're a Duke fan. North Carolina, we just added Inside Carolina earlier this year. So a lot of great team sites for you guys to get information from, but the Rivals team has a lot to break down on Virginia Tech and a massive recruiting weekend coming up for the Hokies. And James Franklin, one of the things he talked about, and I'll talk a little recruiting and then I'll finish with a couple thoughts on James Franklin here. And before we do that, more right rudder, anytime touchdown prediction for Saturday. If you're talking about SMU, which I assume you are, I'm going to go with Derek McFall. I'm going to take him. What is the link for the Rivals team? It is, you can sign up. You can go to rivals.com and you can jump in there. We appreciate you, Los Altos. and you can pick your favorite team. So obviously, if you pick SMU, if you want me to drop that link in there, we've got it right here for you as well to jump in and join us on the website. We've got the message board. All of these Rivals sites that we've got team sites for have message boards. So really fun way to stay up to date with recruiting. We'll have information on SMU and who they're bringing in for this big game against Louisville. A couple flip targets or one flip target, one official visitor on the high school side of things, junior college coming in. But the Rivals team is, obviously getting all clued into what James Franklin's doing. Steve Wiltfong just dropped their big weekend preview around Virginia Tech, but James Franklin brought it up in his press conference saying that they needed Lane Stadium to be rocking on Saturday because they're going to be hosting official visitors. They're going to be hosting commitments and things like that. But one guy that I want to highlight right off the bat, Troy Hune, might be Hun, but Hune is coming in. He's a former Penn State commit. He is a 4-star quarterback. This is honestly kind of a big blow to Andrew Luck and company. But this is really, I think, kind of self-explanatory the way this one's going to play out. California quarterback, 6'4", 220, 4-star prospect. This is a way that you could really get your class off the ground in a positive way. He's coming in for a visit this weekend. He said, I've always been a supporter of James Franklin, and I know that him finding a landing spot at Virginia Tech, it will be a strong interest. Now, predictions already coming in for Troy Hune to land at Virginia Tech and play for James Franklin. So keep an eye on that one. But here's the thing. Penn State has seen its commitments drop off since James Franklin was fired. And Penn State is finding out that their process is not moving, I think, in the way that it maybe wanted it. But one of the best tight ends in the country is going to also be on campus, and he is a Penn State commit still. And so he's going to be in Blacksburg this weekend. And that's Pierce Peterson out of Minnesota, really talented, 6'5", 200-pound tight end. James Franklin and this staff have always recruited and developed the tight ends really well in that Penn State offense. I'm intrigued to see what they tweak about their offense, maybe for the ACC world. But Pierce Peterson, a huge flip target for Penn State to bring in, or for Virginia Tech to bring in this weekend, as James Franklin hitting the ground running. And I mean, he said that there would be, I think he said like 20 or so. I don't know if he dropped a number, but he really is hyping it up over the next 2 weeks when they'll host obviously Miami this weekend, and then they'll go on the road and face Virginia next week. But they're going to be working the official visit train, really, really quickly here to get some guys in town and finish out this Virginia Tech class. Let's take a look here at one more guy, a former Penn State commit, Benjamin Iziuka, big interior offensive lineman, is going to be in town as well out of Detroit. So again, Virginia Tech hitting the ground running here under James Franklin, trying to make waves in this, recruiting world. And they've got some flip targets out there from Penn State. So keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on the work that they're going to put in to make a statement here at the end of the cycle. And again, James Franklin is, I think, somebody that knows that Virginia Tech and what they have with the atmosphere, with kind of the academic side of it as well, and with some of the things that they have to sell in that regard and the uniqueness of that school, I think he's going to fit in really well from a recruiting perspective. Let's take a quick moment here to look at the ACC recruiting rankings heading into the signing period, which is December 3rd. So keep an eye on these. Miami sits at the top. No surprise there for the most part. Florida State, despite a poor season, sitting there with 26 commits, number 2 in the league. Clemson, number 3. North Carolina, number 4. SMU with just 20, similar to Clemson, sitting there at number 5. They continue to push, though, for those flips late in the cycle. Syracuse at number 6. Fran Brown continuing to recruit well. Got 30 guys committed to him right now. Louisville, number 7 with 21 commitments. 8, Cal, 21 commits. Pitt, 20. Stanford, 22. Georgia Tech, 18. Interesting there with Georgia Tech. BC, 24. Duke with 16. Wake Forest, 25. NC State, 19. Virginia, 13. Really interesting there. I think they're going to have to go into the portal again heavily. Virginia Tech sitting with 8 commitments on the class. Here's a look at some of them. Highest ranked prospect, 3-star offensive lineman, high 3-star, Adrian Hamilton. They've got a couple of other guys in there, but certainly a lot of work to do for James Franklin and company as they get into that role and look to make, look to make a statement here late in the recruiting cycle. So a lot going on, but let's end with this here on James Franklin and Virginia Tech. James Franklin got up there at his introductory press conference. And first of all, I love the way he led off. And I've not spent much time around James Franklin or whatever. Led off with a good morning, and you could hear it kind of get echoed back. Asked a reporter, "How are you?" And wanted to start off in that respect. I think James Franklin is really going to change the culture there. And it seems to me that he is a very genuine person. He comes off as a guy who cares about all the things away from football as well. And that is why I think his teams have a super high floor to them. That's why he's achieved the success that they have, even though it didn't end up being good enough for Penn State in the end. I think it's going to be more than good enough at Virginia Tech. And one of the reasons why is with him being someone that has the ties to the area. James Franklin knows how to recruit the DMV, the Mid-Atlantic, Virginia, all of those things. He can prioritize that in the right way, make Virginia Tech cool again, and I still think it's a really cool program, and take some of the lessons that some of his close friends like Brent Pry learned at that job and maybe take them to a different level now that they have the resources there. And you feel for Brent Pry because he didn't. But James Franklin, with what he can do in his world, I think the sky is kind of the limit for that program. Like they have a pathway to being a key ACC contender and being back in the national spotlight. So just terrific introductory press conference. James Franklin recognizing Bud Foster, some of the other Virginia Tech greats, and of course, mentioning that he called Frank Beamer and made sure he had his blessing to take the job. He got emotional talking about Brent Pry. I just thought it was a great, concise press conference that hit all the high notes there and hit he played all the hits, but it really came off in a very, very good way for Virginia Tech and the ACC as well. You can see a lot of the national pundits praising him, talking about how good of a hire this is for Virginia Tech. So just wanted to kind of close with that. Huge news. Again, that James Franklin getting to work right away and starting to build this Virginia Tech program up. I think they will get back to bowl eligibility next year. I think that'll be a relatively quick flip there in that regard. And then the year after that, I would expect them to be firmly in that conference championship race for the ACC. So with that, guys, final question for Pony Up 214. Any update on Kevin Jennings' ankle? He is good to go. He is ready to roll, I think. I mean, that bye week really helped him get a little bit healthier. So everyone, I really appreciate you guys being here on All Access AM. This was so much fun this morning. I really appreciate you guys joining me. And please do me a favor. Go to our YouTube channel, All Access AM. You might be watching, if you're an SMU fan, on the Pony Express channel. We're simulcasting. But what I really would appreciate if you guys would go over to the All Access AM channel and go visit that link right there and go hit the subscribe button. Here, I'll show you what it looks like if you'll hit up there. Boom. Hit that subscribe button. It is youtube.com/@allaccessam with a little hyphen there between All Access AM. So I'll drop it in the chat for you guys who have hung out with us all morning long. Really appreciate you guys being here with us. This has been an incredible show this morning that I really enjoyed. The chat interaction, that's what gets me going. I might have to give up coffee, my friend Pony Up 214, if I keep having days like this with you guys in the chat with all the interaction. So thank you guys so much for all the support. We appreciate all of our sponsors: Horn Legend, Sportsmo, of course, La La Land Foundation, and we have special news on a new sponsor next week that is unique. And I hope you guys will enjoy this one as well. Kind of a way for you guys to get ahead in the holiday gift giving department. So make sure you guys tune in Monday. Let's go Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday of next week. That'll be when we'll preview everything. Actually, I take that back. We might have to go Monday, Wednesday. Stay tuned to the channel. Stay tuned to the channel because I need to see when the ACC gets back in action. Do we have any Thanksgiving Day games to talk about? You remember that college football, of course, has the Thanksgiving Day games just like the NFL, but you forget that. Let's see. All right, there's only one Thanksgiving game on. So there's Friday games, Georgia Tech. All right, we will be doing Monday, Wednesday, and a pre-recorded show Thursday. So if you need something to listen to Thursday morning, getting up on Thanksgiving, that's what we'll have for you guys previewing the weekend slate. So we'll stick with our usual Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thanks for bearing with me as we just planned out our whole week together next week, guys. But please hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button, leave us a rating, a review if you're listening on the podcast. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. I'm Billy Embody. This has been All Access AM. Have a great weekend of ACC football, and we'll catch you guys on Monday. Thanks for listening.